On a planet called Origin, there is a kingdom of mysterious life forms known as Synthetica. They are often accompanied by ruins of civilizations older than even lichens. The largest of these is in an island called Senex, which was thought to be unpopulated by people until the last millennia. When it was colonized by Draconia, they found these ruins, which they assumed belonged to their enemies the Relic Castle, and plundered it for iron, which is a suspiciously rare metal on Origin. It wasn't till it was more intensively studied within the last century that it was dated to be at least 3 billion years old. This of course can't be correct, so it's hard to say the age of it. Conspiracy theorists say it's proof of a civilization that came before life as we know it, but most are skeptical. Regardless, there's lots to learn about this civilization. One of the most interesting things about this that I've yet to tell you is that on the year 2000, many statues from ruins around the world rose almost as if to life. Who's to say whether they looked like this when they were first made, but they all have a certain look about them. You'll see what I mean. While we can't be 100% sure how they came alive, there's a lot we can say about their biology. Or I guess engineering? At this point it's a bit of a blur. They have circular systems that transfer liquids throughout their body to help with their function. It seems their main form of energy is through a combustion engine. They do something quite similar to eating, where they basically dump a flammable substance within their body. The way they do this may be as sophisticated as picking it up and inserting it in a specific orifice, or they may require assistance. When damaged, some can place scrap iron in a different orifice and slowly regenerate what they've lost. This of course depends on how damaged they are and if what they've lost was more than just the iron exoskeleton. Of course, iron isn't nearly as common now as it used to be, so many Synthetica are left damaged without a way to repair themselves. People have tried to repair them with copper or bronze, but this has had limited success. Before we look at some specific examples of synthetic life, I want to talk about combustion engines. There are internal combustion engines and external combustion engines. You cannot imagine how many times I had to re-say that. I don't know why combustion is so hard to say. Anyway, the first usually uses hydrocarbon-based fuels like ethanol, or Anthropos's black gold. The pressurized fluid in the fuel tank expands or tries to expand when heated up, and the energy and motion of which can be used to power a motor. While the giant airship and many other inventions, especially from Anthropos, are powered this way, Synthetica is powered differently. It's powered by an external combustion engine, in which the expanding fluid is separate from the fuel. The fluid, in this case water, will create motion by getting heated up to steam after making contact with a combustion tank with the coal and such. It gets cooled down by making contact with the outside shell of the robot, then circulates back to the combustion tank to get heated up again. That way you only have to replace the water if something terrible happened, and all you have to worry about is the fuel to burn. Okay, let's talk about the 3 most common Synthetica. Chonks is the most common Synthetica, named for the sound it makes as it moves and works. They seem to be programmed to focus on one area of land and tend to the plants around. When work is done, they rest near a source of flammable substance, preferably coal or wood. For some reason, they don't use the sticks or other plants they were shearing, alluding to a time when resources in Senex weren't so scarce. It seems Chonks might have been made for his trees specifically, as its legs and feet are particularly good at navigating trees, and its shears are strong enough to cut wood. They have a plate that can be opened when touched by a warm hand, which flammable stuff can be placed in for power. Their shears have to be sharpened manually, and the Chonks will refuse to work if its shears are dull. A more advanced Synthetica is the Rooa, also known as the Iron Scarecrow. It can be seen floating around large fields. It doesn't seem to be dangerous, but is intensely menacing in a way that's difficult to describe. It makes a constant low buzz as it moves, which is how it was named. All it seems to do is float and watch, but there seems to be a lot going on with its eyes more than just vision. It seems that the information isn't only being processed like in most cited Synthetica, but stored somewhere. The most commonly accepted theory is that the Rooa are recording what they see, but so far there's no known way to access these recordings. Can videos or images of the time they were made survive so long? Will it give us insight into a time before life as we know it? The insight it already gives is that people who made it likely had agriculture and needed it to protect their crops from something. That's why the Rooa is also called the Scarecrow. Its floating technology was researched quite intensely and found to be similar to the Calvin Gen. It's null magic that holds a selective gravitational field and avoids gravity itself. As nice as this technology would be to avoid all friction in a variety of uses, Nobody actually knows how to do null magic at the moment. Whatever it is, it's powered by the usual combustion engine. While Rooa can automatically refill its coal, it can't tell when it's damaged enough to need a scrap iron refill. Rooa is one of the rare Synthetica, but more common than anything that isn't a Chonks or the next one, androids. It seems that they, while sapient, were regarded as lower lifeforms than their creators and were subjected to unpaid labor and other practices we today might consider unethical. While they have memories of a time before they shut down, they don't seem to have knowledge of magic or even how they were made. Some information they have given is a description of their overlords, eerily similar to humanoids but horned, covered in eyes, and absolutely colossal. The androids describe people regularly exceeding heights of 250 centimeters, and they think of current people as being quite small. Most of these androids are around 2 meters tall, which would be much smaller than these supposed overlords. So far, no remains have been found in Senex, but they do resemble the skeletons found in 2 very old ruins. Check out Speculative Evolution, Life as We Don't Know It. They've also been able to teach us the language of their masters, and they learned Common very quickly. The first one to speak with living people called himself Belshazzar, and said he worked for a man named Adrahasis. While Belshazzar is still alive, the Allfather never came to Senex, and as far as anyone knows, no android saw him firsthand to tell the tale. That title only belongs to the twice cursed prince, who I talked about in my last video. While you might think, wow, robots are so cool, they can't even die, this is unfortunately untrue. At least the second sentence is. Especially due to a lack of iron, most androids and other Synthetica have limited regeneration, and if something in them goes wrong, it's not like we have the mechanics who know how to work with them. Also, as another result of iron's rarity, Synthetica were often hunted and looted for scrap iron. Because of all that, only a few careful Synthetica are still around in 2092. Almost all of them being androids. Their population has been stable for a while, but recently went under 50 individuals. When one dies, it's not like there's anyone around to make more. Another, much more recent form of synthetic life is currently being developed in Sudoja. They took a lot of inspiration from Synthetica, but they called it the Artificial Neo-Intelligent Magic Energy Cobalt Auric Titanium Generally Implementable Robotic Lady. Or Anime Cat Girl for short. It uses the combustion engine setup, but with some modifications from modern magic. For one, the medium of fluid that's cooling and heating is a synthetic sort of blood mixed with silver imbued with psychic magic that should be giving it a pinkish magenta color. However, the cobalt in this robot's design that was meant to improve wear resistance seems to have had a side effect of corrupting the psychic magic into dark. The two are similar enough that it hasn't caused any significant errors, but some anti-this sort of tech people consider it a bad omen. The psychic magic was supposed to allow scientists to monitor Anime Cat Girl's thoughts, but it seems to glitch every once in a while. Probably not a big deal, and certainly no need to look into it further. The magic also allows the system to kick up the heat when extra energy is necessary, and this seems to be working fine if not a little exaggerated. Again, nothing to worry about. It also stores extra energy around in its arms and those golden wisps. The aura metal, also known as gold, is used to safely hold in lots of magic. It's like how silver, palladium, and rhodium are really good at storing magic, except gold is so terrible at it that it works great for shielding or keeping it somewhere. The gold dissolved in something like aqua regia, set in something like glass, can reliably keep in magic while also cooling it down before it goes back to the surface. Titanium is the main metal for the exoskeleton, which just keeps Anime Cat Girl safe. The twist with this is that most of its inner body is actually just good old meat. Modern science hasn't yet been able to make a brain as advanced as Synthetica, so this robot actually just has a Sudosian brain. Much of its circulatory and nervous system is biological as well, just with a magic mechanic exoskeleton and extra features. This makes some people think of Anime Cat Girl as a sick attempt at a flashy new tech, but it's quite the controversial figure. On to the second part of the video, there's a little known phenomenon in an island called Eidolon. Most of it is a thick forest, and the whole island is thought to be uninhabited by people. But recent scientific research taking place on the island's less monster-heavy areas suggests otherwise. The northernmost tip of the Eidolon is more of a swampy plains area, where the life there is uniquely adapted. The first anomalous life form found was the chainsaw stalker. It's a pig-like artiodactyl known to have strangely forked tusks. However, recent observations have found the males with chainsaws surgically implanted into their jaws. This procedure has been done well enough that the chainsaws even power on when the animal is excited. Unfortunately, this tampering is almost certainly worsening the animal's chances of survival, as the chainsaws make it near impossible to hunt since they're so loud it scares away prey. Luckily, the animal is an omnivore and has now kept its meat-eating habits solely to scavenging. The chainsaws do a decent job of defense as they're quite loud, but they don't actually do a whole lot of damage. They don't cut through flesh as well as you'd think, and they're better adapted to wood. Not that the pig could aim steady enough to even cut that. The energy usage of these chainsaws also requires the animal to eat much more than usual, which is the main drawback. Thanks to how well they were doing before, it doesn't seem like these drawbacks will send it to extinction, but their population is dropping considerably. Another is a recently discovered animal called a forest rocket. It lives somewhere between the swampy plains and the forest, where the trees aren't too dense. It's named for the rockets on its back that are fixed to it via a jetpack. This jetpack has probably increased the forest rocket's chances of success in a hunt, as it now outruns anything trying to get away. Because of this, on top of the similarly upgraded food requirement, forest rockets are doing so well that it puts other animals in danger. But let's ask the real question. Who the heck put that on there and how? Considering the geographic closeness of these two animals, it's likely the same culprit is responsible. The main theories are 1. That some rogue inventor is testing stuff on animals on Eidolon, thinking they can get away with it now that Eidolon technically isn't controlled by any one sovereign state. It could also be a company testing products for similar reasons. Another theory is that these animals naturally evolved chainsaws and jetpacks, but that's extremely unlikely. Could it even be God? Probably not. What do you think? Here are some more clues that we've gathered. Only adult male chainsaw stalkers have the chainsaws, though some exceptionally small males don't. You can tell when the chainsaw is new by their behavior being lethargic and eating minimally. For the forest rockets, only full-grown adults get jetpacks, while juveniles have an elastic sort of material around their neck and waist like belts. None of these changes are gradual, but immediate from one to another. At the same time, it's never been observed happening, just that at one point a specimen has nothing, then the next time it's observed, it has something. Also, when one of these animals dies, their machinery doesn't immediately disappear. However, almost as soon as it stops being observed, it is nowhere to be found. There's also no paleontological or even archaeological evidence of any of these machines, so it's unlikely that they evolved. Very unlikely. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. Check out my Patreon, which you can subscribe to for $1 a month to support me and get your name at the end of my videos. My next Spec Evo video will probably be about hybrids. Thanks for watching!